10 million children depend on the National Schools Nutritional Programme, but during this COVID pandemic, it seems there are problems. While the Education Department says children are receiving their daily meals through the Department of Social Development, the NGO Equal Education says a snap survey of 70 schools reveals this is not the case. The issue is now going to court. From Equal Education, the General Secretary, Noncedo, Madubedube, good afternoon to you and welcome. First of all, the Department of Basic Education says that bar a few hiccups, and I quote, the nationwide schools feeding scheme is up and running. You disagree with that?
Yeah, look, from the 1st of June, the Minister, Angela had said, look, as schools open, we're going to roll out the school nutrition program. And then, in fact, in the most recent address, he said, look, as schools open, only the grade 7s and 9s will be receiving food. Grade 7s and 12s, sorry, will be receiving food during this period. And we had said, look, you can't backtrack on a promise that you've made to feed learners. Now, I also want to state that earlier in the lockdown period, we ran an internal survey of over 400 learners across 5 provinces, and about 8% of those learners said they had received food relief from the DSD and or civil society. But the rest of those learners had said if we had the opportunity to go to school and get that extra meal or two in the day, that we'd be willing to do that. There's a huge humanitarian crisis around food insecurity in this country, and children are doubly marginalized by this fact. So the reasons for taking the department to court is because they had then said, we are open to running this program. We've got the infrastructure and the finance to do it, and we'll run this program and open it by the 22nd of June. We did a quick investigation on that day for another 2 days and found out that on the ground, in the reality in our schools, learners weren't in fact getting provision to the school nutrition program. So what we're asking the departments across the board, all provinces, together with the Department nationally of Basic Education, is to present a public plan to us to show that this program will be administered or rolled out in various schools in this way. And that's what they failed to do. So, I mean, I'm curious as to what they're actually arguing here, because what we're putting on the table is that it's necessary to get clear, concise plans on the execution of the program. And we also need legislative or even court supervision or monitoring of this program to ensure that it isn't just a few schools captured on Twitter, but rather structurally the over 10 million learners that benefit from this program or qualify for the feeding scheme are in fact getting food during this process.
Potentially, how many children do you think are not being fed right now?
I absolutely can't answer that question, and that's part of the sadness of the story, right? That no one has a clear picture except the Departments of Basic Education, and they aren't willing to share that kind of knowledge with anyone. What we do know, though, is that schools in Limpopo that we had spoken to last week asking whether they were getting food to feed schools or grades across the board, that said to us, look, never mind feeding other grades, even the food we're getting to feed the grade 7s and 12s hasn't been adequate. There have been schools and SGPs that have been forced to send learners home halfway through the school day because there isn't enough food to feed everyone. Some SGBs had said to us, look, we're having to then rechannel money or repurpose money that's inside our coffers right now that could have been used for additional support in curricula and learning from home for learners, but we aren't able to do that because we don't have enough food being served. So there's a lot happening inside the departments, provincially in particular, that we don't have sort of sight over. No one does. And I think that's dangerous.
All right. Thank you very much indeed. All ventilated in court tomorrow. Noncedo, Madubedube, thank you very much indeed.